Paudie!
Tom, tis yourself. How are you? You're looking well.
Yeah, well, I'm feeling well.
Nice.
Sun is shining.
Yeah.
I'm here in the Happy Rock.
Yeah, we survived the pandemic.
So far.
We came out the other side.
Yes. So that's a good thing. And now I'm out for a walk in the Phoenix Park and I come across you, which makes the day all the better.
Oh, thank you. I thought there could be nothing better to do today than to take a walk in the Phoenix Park, the playground of kings.
Is it?
Yeah, they famously said that Ireland was a playground for the kings of England and their ambition. But here we have the Phoenix Park. It's one of the gifts, I suppose, of that horrendous time.
Era.
Yeah, we're lucky to have the Phoenix Park. It was the hunting grounds of the king. Sir Luke, the home of our president, is here, of course. If you might recognise Sir Luke because the same architecture is used in the White House, and the ambassador's residence from America is also here in the Phoenix Park.
So what brought you to this rock?
Well, this is the Knockmurray dolmen.
Oh, it's a dolmen, is it?
It is.
Okay.
It is a dolmen. Well, the technical word for it is an assist.
Okay.
So the same as you have a cyst on the body, you have a little lump here on the hillside.
Okay.
Yeah. It's from the Neolithic period, so you're putting it at between 2,500 and 3,000 pound era.
Okay.
So to give you a sense of just how old that is, it's as far away from the year naught as we are today, even a little bit further.
Okay.
Yeah, so going back even further than we are today from the year naught. And the fall of Troy was said to be in the 1200s BC, so you're talking about another 1800 years.
So more than double the distance.
More than double the distance.
Wow, okay.
Yeah.
And a pretty big lump of stone to get here, and this is up on a hill as well.
It is.
The word knock, I guess.
Yeah.
Okay.
Canuck, yeah, from the Irish.
Do we know where the stone came from?
The stone was taken out of the river Liffey, because we know that because the weathering on the stone isn't just from its exceeding age.
Okay.
The weathering is also water weathering from the river Liffey.
Okay.
So a hard day's work in the
Yes.
days before carts and wheels to carry this capstone up from the river Liffey at Chapelizoid.
Okay. Wow. Okay. And then it's here because
it's a burial chamber.
It's a burial chamber. Okay.
It's a burial chamber for two males. They were found to be in their 40s or 50s. So in those days, that would have been the latter half of your life.
Yes.
Definitely. It was analysed by the famous artist and archaeologist George Petrie.
Yes.
Yeah, who gave us, our own Royal Society, as it were. And I don't know, it's two males, we don't know exactly their provenance, but because it's Pride Month, I like to think a little bit, use my imagination.
And have you seen people's coins?
I haven't, no.
I wonder whether they're spoons or not. But all of those people at that age, archaeologists, would have been required to draw.
Yes.
It's a necessary thing because no photographs, and so they were. And the photographs, the drawings are usually incredibly accurate.
Yes.
So I know in the British Navy they required every officer to be able to draw in case they came across something they needed to mark it down accurately.
Drawing, of course, technical drawing is still taught in our schools.
Yes. And
Petrie's father was a miniaturist. So he would, those little pictures of your beloved that you'd carry around. He would have drawn those.
Okay.
It would have been in the family to be able to draw very small things.
So this was excavated.
Mm-hmm.
And then was it covered over, or
it would have been a mound? The technical word for it is a cyst.
Okay.
So just like you get a cyst on the body, you have a little boil on the top of the hill.
Okay.
And the mound would have been taken away, and this would have been shown.
So this would have been visible on a hill as a man-made structure.
Yes.
Okay. Very clearly a man-made structure. And then if you're coming up the river, you'd probably spot it on the way up.
Exactly.
Okay.
The Liffey has been a trading river for thousands of years, and if you're coming up the river Liffey, you would be able to spot the landmark and say there is the.
And there may be some significance that this was taken from the river. There could be a whole rigmarole around that. Okay. This is now facing, in my mind, not have been open. The mouth of the chamber may or may not have been open. Okay.
It's about the symbolism, really, of
Okay.
it than the technical.
Okay. Yeah. Pretty good.
And of course, we're here today because we're talking the solstice, the longest day of the year.
So that's what brings you to the Phoenix
That-
Park. And,
well,
okay.
Yeah, that's
Okay.
what brings us here as well. I love the Phoenix Park, as you know, but we're also talking the solstice. Would you like to tell the viewers a little bit more about the solstice now?
Well, it's obviously the longest day of the year. I would know that. I think in Ireland, the day stretch and contract pretty dramatically. So this would be about 9.5 hours more daylight than the winter solstice, which is a whole working day in anybody's book. 9.5 hours. So huge difference, and you notice that in the kind of plants that grow here, plants that thrive here, and how we live our lives. Because as a kid, I was out playing football till 10 o'clock at night, and you know, no bother. And then suddenly in the winter time, you go home at 3:30. You kind of look around and see it's getting a bit dark. People turn the lights on the houses. So it's so welcome when it comes. I mean, it's extraordinary.
And we all have loads of very happy memories of being out in a beer garden and everyone looking at their watch and going, oh my God, the sun is only setting now and it's 11 o'clock.
That's right.
Yeah, the night is still young. We could party all the way
But
through.
you know, the comment then is the nights will be drawn in from now on.
Yeah.
You know, so there's always someone to put a puncture
there
in a
is.
balloon.
There's always someone for whom the glass is half empty.
Yes.
Because, or somebody who loves their kind of ritual phrases, I suppose.
Yes.
Ireland has loads of little ritual phrases. So coming up to June 21st, people will be going around saying, oh, isn't there a grand stretch in the evening? But of course, the glass half empty people are right there on June 22nd to say, oh, even now.
Even now.
Even now,
I think
noticed
it's
that.
probably a competition among the curmudgeons to get it out first. Yeah, who can be the first to say it?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, very good. So, and what I suppose here in Ireland, we're not the biggest celebrators of the summer solstice. I think probably it's too much for us to comprehend. There might be some sunshine, and it's now the long days of summer. Yeah, that we're coming into now. We've just had May the 1st. There's only a bit of May blossom out, and you can probably discard the jumpers, even though I'm wearing one this morning. It was cold this morning, I have to tell you. And now till the end of August, really, these are the long idle days of summer.
The long idle days of summer. The cider days, as some might call them.
Lovely. Now, you brought us here.
Yes.
We're still in the Phoenix Park.
We're still in the Phoenix Park. I was feeling a bit nostalgic for my childhood, so I thought I'd move into the tall grass and the playing in the fields.
Okay, very
and the
nice.
tiny blue flowers, whose name escapes me right now.
Maya Sodas, Forget-Me-Nots.
Forget-me-nots, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. You'll forget-me-not, yeah. Oh.
So we did Knockmany, the Dolmen, and it was Orient Seg. Are there any other buildings that we kind of like are well known that have or landscapes that have a southern orientation?
Well, there are two ritual sites set up in Ireland for the solstice that are really important.
Okay.
That is the Hill of Tara and on Grianan Ailleach.
Okay.
The Grianan Ailleach is said to be the oldest building in Ireland. It's in County Donegal.
Yes.
It's a circular structure.
Yes.
Yeah.
I've seen pictures. I've never been. And it again is high in the landscape.
It is high in the landscape, so as you can see, the stony palace of the sun is how it's sometimes translated. Green
on. Yeah. And Ailleach then would be, in my view, steep-sided. So the building is battened, or it's on a cliff promontory, I guess. Okay. And that is circular. And so you say it's oriented towards the sun. How does that?
Well, there are two doors in it.
Okay.
There's an entranceway and an exit, and on the June 21st, the sunlight comes in one door and goes out.
Does it? Okay.
Goes out the other.
Okay.
So the chamber, which would probably have had a roof on it at the time, would only have been truly illuminated on one day of the year.
Okay.
Making it a particularly sacred day to be in that space.
So I've seen the doorway, and that is human-sized, or animal side. It's not a big...
Like many of the sites in Ireland, there is the ritual action of having to stoop down to humble yourself to go inside.
Oh, okay. I thought it was. I always thought that was to do with the weather.
Maybe it's keeping the weather out. Maybe it's because people on the go were a lot smaller.
Yeah.
The theologian in me wants to say that it's a ritual action of humbling yourself as you go inside.
Like from Lugh style.
Yes.
Okay.
We were in the Cave of the Cats, weren't we? And that is again a very ritual action of descending down into that chamber, of making yourself small and then opening up to the big
Which
chamber.
is the actual piece. You're automatically forced to be big enough to make
Exactly.
Okay.
There's the wind getting up. No day is perfect in Ireland, I suppose. Some people claim on Grianan is a temple to the sun.
Okay.
Some people say that it's only a kind of defensive structure. There is a story associated with it. During the second battle of Moytura, so when the Tuatha De Danann are trying to beat the Fomorians back out into the sea, and you have the famous scene with Balor and Lugh, Foggage, so that really epic battle there in County Mayo around Moytura. The battle isn't going very well for the son of the Dagda, Cave. He retreats to County Donegal, but he is found there at the Grianan Ailleach, before the Grianan stood, and he dies. And the Dagda, the father of the gods, Ireland's Zeus figure, is found heartbroken, and to commemorate the passing of his son, he builds the Grianan on top of it. And to, in a sense, you have a father grieving for his son, and you have that ancient fertility ritual, that ancient life ritual of Ireland, of the sun coming in to a dark chamber to bring back life. You can almost imagine a grieving father trying to bring his son back to life after a battle that he had won. So, bittersweet victory. The Tuatha De Danann defeat the Fomorians, drive them out into the sea. They wouldn't return again for thousands of years, perhaps. And but also he has the death of his son.
The price of victory.
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly.
So then, that all sounds very good. I think the Grianan was in some state of disrepair in the early 19th century, 1830s, I think. So there was some remedial work done to it.
Yes, and George Petrie is going around in the 1830s. Of course, the Knock Marie Dolben that we just spoke about is 1838. So they're contemporaneous, the works on the two of them. There's one works that I really have to mention, because as you know, my video on St. Patrick that I did not so long ago, St. Patrick took one look at the Grianan and he thought it was lovely, and he deconsecrated it to the old gods and made it into his own style of building, his own church. Mightn't be exactly the right word. He put in a new capstone to symbolise that the Grianan was now the home of a new god.
And it was O'Neill or Unail building?
The Unail clan, of course, used it as a stronghold, and it is the seat. It is perhaps only the symbolic home of their family, in a sense, because the extent to which buildings like the Grianan were actually occupied is debatable. A little bit like we were in Rathcrogan in Roscommon. We had the lovely tour from the archaeologist there. He showed us around all of the sites associated with Maeve and pointed out that while a huge amount of building work went into it, hardly anyone lived there. It was just used at certain times of the year for certain rituals, and that is probably the same story with the Grianan.
Which brings me nicely in my head to the Leopold in Tara.
Yes.
So, and if we take the Leopold, the Stone of Destiny, which is brought up Slieve Lucra, out Dunluce Castle to Scotland at the time of the Dalriada, I guess. Became the Stone of Scone, and it's now the Coronation Stone in Westminster.
It is indeed.
And purely ceremonial. but it established the credibility of the divine right of the king,
Yes.
I guess.
It does indeed. Well, the Stuarts, because of their connection to the stone of stone, felt themselves to not only be King of Scotland, but to be High King of Ireland as well. So when James II retires, shall we say, or retreats to Ireland before the Battle of the Boyne, he is retreating to his ancestral seat, to the kingdom where he is High King. And he has a legitimate claim to be King of Ireland, even if there is another king back home in Westminster.
So from the seat of Tara, that's from whence he draws his power.
Exactly.
From the landscape.
Exactly. The Leopold, of course, is supposed to cry out, to scream, when it is touched by the true King of Ireland. When I touched it, it must have been asleep.
It may be a replacement up there too. You never know.
Yeah, and we were talking about this earlier on about about Reconstruction.
Yes.
Yes, and you were saying a bit about Newgrange.
That I was talking earlier about Newgrange and comparing that with the Grianan, and Grianan circular tri-valley structure, so it's hard to do an interpretation. Whereas Newgrange, yes, it looks pretty well now, but it's an interpretation of what it may have looked like.
Exactly.
Rather than a true, because we know from the photographs that it wasn't always in that condition.
No.
There were certain elements there, the capstone was there, the curbstone was there, so it was pretty identifiable, but the way we see it or consider it now from photographs, that's not necessarily what was there.
And it amazes me as well, because the only thing that we can be sure was there is the symbolism, almost the writing of human peoples.
Yes.
Even though it comes from so very, very long ago, the thing that has lasted at Newgrange is the symbol, is the sun symbol.
Yes.
Right? We have no idea what the actual building looked like. We have no idea what the mound looked like, but we know that those people carved into the stone that symbol. That is the thing that has stood the test of time, and it's almost the reverse of what happens everywhere else. Writing fades away. Of course, in the Mediterranean world, you wrote on papyrus, and papyrus doesn't last.
Yes, of course.
Yeah.
Yes.
But the thing that has lasted at Newgrange, that has withstood the reconstruction, is the writing. The great thing about the Grianan is because it is a circular structure, a temple to the sun serving a very simple purpose, that we can be fairly confident that the reconstruction is as it was intended to look.
So they wouldn't have tried to put a square peg in a round building.
Exactly.
You know, it's not
Exactly.
possible. Okay.
Exactly.
Now, when I was growing up, I knew about Tuatha De Danann. They weren't huge, but they were certainly bigger than the solstice thing. My father's birthday is on the 21st of June, so that was probably occupied my thinking.
Yes.
But is it really a big thing here?
Well, it's given the structure of Irish society in ancient times, the festivals and the holidays revolved around cattle herding.
Okay.
So the movement of cattle is all important.
Okay.
And that is really key to understanding most religious festivals, is the practical purpose they fill for the community.
So if it's not a big thing here, where is it a big thing, or relatively?
The further north you go, when
Okay.
the tilt of the Earth on its axis is more obvious,
Yeah.
so that you have in the land of the midnight sun, as it were,
Okay.
at that time of year when it is when not only is there a long day, the day doesn't end.
Okay.
Yeah. So for those countries up far north, the Scandinavian countries, midsummer, and there is of course that famous horror movie set at midsummer.
Is that Swedish?
I think so, yeah.
And I think that in my distant memory, there's a bigger thing at Sweden for midsummer. I think it's, yes, okay. And obviously, you're going to celebrate that if it's going to be dark for a period of the year. So
They were aware of the solstices opposite.
yes,
The winter solstice.
okay,
Right way back when sun worship was key to Irish society.
okay,
We don't know, was the climate different in those days, perhaps. but the winter solstice is about the rebirth of the sun. It's almost about death and life rather than the solstice, which is a celebration of true celebration of the sun.
So then the other thing is, so we talk about Sweden and sort of further north. Is there anything further south, or is that so? Is there anything in the Med or anything like that about solstice?
Oh, there is. Well, John's Eve is what takes us back to biblical times. Obviously, it's chosen for that time of year because St. John the Baptist famously said that I must decrease so that he may increase. In the ancient world, the cults of John the Baptist and the cults of Jesus Christ were competing with one another. So it was very important for the writers of the Gospel to write down John decreased so that Christ may increase. And what happens at the solstice? But the sun begins its decrease and its move towards Christmas. This, in the church's calendar, is the nativity of John the Baptist, the second nativity of the year.
Okay, so the other thing that when you mentioned John's Eve is there is a bonfire tradition at John's Eve, is that right?
There is a bonfire tradition definitely in Ireland and in other parts as well. You find it in the north of Italy. A big celebration. Of course, it is around harvest time, or coming up to harvest time. Well, I say it's around harvest time.
Yeah. Here it's second cut silage, I guess.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. But the way John's Eve was used in Ireland was to ensure a good harvest.
Okay.
So the first thing you do with your bonfire is you burn the weeds.
Which you have to collect first.
You have to collect the weeds first.
Yes.
Yeah. And then you burn the weeds to ensure a bountiful harvest.
Okay, which is quite practical.
It is quite, yeah. And then you would, when the bonfire is done, you would use the ashes to fertilize the soil.
Much the same way that the light's decreasing in order that Jesus may grow and
exactly.
Okay,
Exactly.
so all symbolic.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so
the final act, I suppose you'd say, of the John's Eve bonfire is to light a torch and to process around the community with the torch, and this would protect the community for the year.
Just on John the Baptist, that's his saint's day, or is the day he's commemorated on.
Yes.
Is death or
the interesting thing about it is that John the Baptist is one of the only saints that gets their feast day from the day they were born, rather than the day they died. Most saints, like St. Patrick, was said to have died on the 17th of March.
Okay.
That's why he gets his feast day then.
Okay.
But John the Baptist, this is the nativity, and that is probably because, as I said, the biblical witness needs the solstice to be married with the feast of John the Baptist, but it's also because John the Baptist is Christ's cousin, so
yes.
he's special.
Yes.
You know.
So they're inextricably linked then. Is that
Yes.
okay? And the ritual of water then with John the Baptist, is that like?
I haven't seen that come into John's Eve much here anyway.
Okay, and is it still practiced here?
It is practiced in Dingle.
Okay.
Dingle is always a great town for preserving the traditions. But it's also practiced in Connemara.
Okay.
You'll be driving through Connemara in the evening and you'll see the bonfires on the hill.
Smoke rising up. Okay, and it's not just burning the
gorse.
No.
Yeah.
Okay. So one of the things you mentioned earlier on was the other festivals. Lunarsah and Bealtaine being more in tune with the Irish way of life. Can you just give us a bit more about that?
Bealtaine in particular is about the cattle moving away from your rath or your fort. So pretty much throughout the winter and the early spring, the cattle are going to be around where you live, along with all of their smells and all of their insects. And so Bealtaine is going to be a really special time of year for you, because finally the air clears and everything is going very green. So not only does the world look more alive, but it also looks cleaner and fresher.
It is actually clean and refreshing.
Yeah.
I think the phrase "leaving your shit behind" comes to mind.
Exactly. Exactly.
So yeah, because a lot of this, your midden or your toilet's not going to be very far from your habitation.
No.
Unless you live beside a stream or something.
Yeah.
But okay, so it is going to be a nice thing. And then at Bealtaine, that's another fire festival, I guess?
That's another fire festival. That's the dual fire festival. So you have two fires there.
Okay.
And the cattle are driven between the two fires in order to purify them.
Okay.
Yeah, which serves, again, as with most religious holidays, it serves a practical purpose because the flames and the smoke of the fire are killing the ticks and the fleas on the various animals as they go through. And you might have ticks and fleas as well, remember, that you might want a bit of purification from.
Well, one of the things they did say about having the open fire in a thatch house was that the smoke would get up into the thatch and kill the bugs.
Exactly.
And I read somewhere that a 4-poster bed was invented to stop ticks falling out of the ceiling onto you.
Oh, wow.
So that's why there's a covering on top of it.
That's nice. Wow.
So then we're going up in Bealtaine, we're following the cattle up into the hills.
Yes.
And that's not just in Ireland, but in a lot of I guess cattle dominated
societies.
Yeah. Okay.
You can pretty much tell where the religious festivals of any society will be based on whether they are tillage based or
ruminant based.
Yeah.
Okay. Wow. Okay. So the practice then is transhumans, where they're just moving from one place to another, and then there's boulaying, which is living in small huts.
Exactly.
Yeah, and so it's just protection against the elements, the worst of the elements at summertime, which usually a bit of rain or something.
Mm-hmm.
Summer to put cover over your head, really, rather than summer that needs a great deal of heating. Okay, nice, and I can see that the whole aspect of that moving out beyond, like, and they say cast on the clout till May is out. When the hawthorn is out, it's a signal at this time that the weather's going to be good now.
Yes.
And we get moving. And then the corollary of that is there's Lunarsah on the other side, but Bealtaine is such a huge festival. Its opposite is Samhain, I guess.
Yeah, the opposite to Bealtaine would be Samhain. It is the time when the cattle come back home again, I suppose.
Okay.
And maybe the dirt of the cattle that you remember from last year is the origin of the sense that things are dying. That Samhain is a death cult. That the new life that you celebrated in May is now gone.
Yes, and then one of the points I was going to say was I know that they used a practice called Foggage, which was letting the grass just grow and die around the homestead. You'd be up in the hills all summer, and then the cattle would just come back in and eat the dead standing grass. No haying, no mowing, no silage making, nothing. That was it. But Solstice sits between Bealtaine then and Lunarsah. Mm-hmm. And how far are they apart?
That's I'm not exactly sure of the mathematical distance between the two of them, but Solstice would be closer to Bealtaine than to Lunarsah.
Oh, well,
or to Samhain, should I say? But it is between Lunarsah and Bealtaine. So
they'd be equidistant. The cross-quarter days, I guess, is what they'd be.
Exactly.
So, what happens at Lunarsah? You discussed the fires at Bealtaine, and I guess Lunarsah, the height of summer.
It is really a celebration of the pinnacle of life.
Okay.
Every one of these feast days is the group moving into a liminal space.
Okay.
Most of the days you're alive. It is hard work to stay alive and to survive.
Yeah.
You're entering a day of the year when everything becomes so very different. It's almost like stepping into another universe, another place and time. And Lunarsah is particularly special in that sense because as a celebration of the pinnacle of life, Chalchu cleared the lands of Ireland for farming.
Yes.
So she essentially invented tillage.
Okay.
and with her flames she burned the Irish countryside.
Okay.
But so difficult was the process that she died of exhaustion.
Okay.
And her foster son was Lugh father.
Okay.
Lugh had obviously a difficult relationship with his family, but his foster mother was Chal Chu. And when she died, he threw a big Olympic-style games to commemorate her passing, and they repeated it every year at Lunarsah.
So the Tailteann Games is okay, and
Exactly.
they're held out at the hill of.
Dishnook, is it?
No, it's locked out. I thought that's maybe where she's buried.
Right.
Yeah, out near the Hill of Ward in County Meath. So I'm not sure. I'm not sure where the Tailteann Games took place. But maybe something we've got to check out.
Yeah.
But so celebration at that point. The work is done. This is the best that summer is going to offer.
Exactly.
Okay. And and if it's one of the high days of the year. And is that a reason people are climbing up things, or what is the story with climbing up things? Because there seems to be a lot of climbing involved.
Reek Sunday, of course, comes very close to Lunarsah when you climb Croagh Patrick. Patrick was said to spend 40 days and 40 nights at the top of Croagh Patrick, and people still recreate that to this day by climbing up. Some people go up barefoot, which I can't recommend personally, but this is also, as you can imagine, has a pre-Christian origin.
And its name in the past was Cruachan.
Exactly.
Yeah.
The Reek is probably very old as well. And what happened is that there were special rocks there on the Reek that were in the visage or looked a little bit like Crom Dubh.
Okay.
The crouching darkness.
Okay.
And the myth associated with the Reek and Crom is that Crom could see in any direction, a little bit like Janus in Roman mythology.
Like a three-headed deity. Okay.
Exactly. He could see in the three directions, but he also demanded human sacrifice.
Okay.
So you don't want him to be able to see you. And what Lugh father did was to stand on top of his head, push the crouching darkness even further down, so that his gaze would be fixed, and in the spaces in between where he could see, people could live freely and be happy.
Okay, so Lugh is a much better deal than Crom.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. And Lugh is very much the heroic god, the hero god of the hour.
Okay, so yes, sun-kissed, hero. Okay.
Yes.
And Crom, then, are there any representations of Crom around?
Well, we know that one of his altars ended up as the Killycluggan stone.
Okay.
Which a beautiful recreation of which you can see on a roundabout, naturally, in County Cavan. I'm not sure. I think there is a couple of Crom heads in, is it the Sligo National Museum?
I don't know. I know there was one was it Cremon in Kerry? That was in the wall of the church that was being removed subsequently. There's a photograph of it, you'll see it online, but taken God knows where. He doesn't look like a very offensive character.
No. And his idol was, according to legend, was covered in gold.
Okay.
What they did was the cult of Crom would place his idol at the top of the hill, cover it in gold, and place the other 12 gods below him. Okay. One for each of the constellations at the bottom, and cover them in silver.
Okay.
And the implication was that Crom is better than all of these other gods. And that was associated with the return of the Fomorians and their princess to the plain of Magschlecht in County Sligo.
So we have Lugh on top of it as a kind of, so that seems to me like some reason why people might climb on top of things and have a high day, is that kind of ritualistic remembrance of Lugh defeating Crom, the stooping darkness, it does seem to me like that's a story that probably has more to it than what we hear.
And the mythology comes full circle then, because of course St. Patrick arrived and is said to have broken apart the golden idol of Crom Dubh he hit it with his staff.
Okay.
The staff was in Christchurch Cathedral until the Reformation, but the staff, he hit the statue of Clondalkin and it shattered into a load of pieces. But of course, we have the statue, so.
Okay.
Yeah.
On the roundabout.
So the myth doesn't always reflect
the reality.
Yeah.
Yes. Okay. Well, we know that.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So that brings us then to complete. So we've talked about we've talked about the solstice, and we've talked about it in the context of Ireland and how we celebrate it here, and then the festivals that are either side of it, which kind of take a bit of the glory from the solstice. You know,
Exactly.
we'll do our own thing over here. Thanks very much. And it's always great to have a holiday where, you know, the Alta is about getting ready to go to the hills, Sound is about coming back down from the hills, and Lunarsah is about having a good time.
Exactly.
Is that it?
Yeah.
So it's carefree. It's a bit of a cider holiday. Yeah, and we can go out in the park and climb a hill, look at the view, and there isn't work to be done. Is that?
And we still do it. The Olympics every 4 years. We still do it. The Chalchin Games are Ireland's Olympics, and you know what? The whole world tunes in, and everything stops for the Olympics in the city where they are based. It's sometimes we think that the people so very long ago are aliens to us, but in reality, they are very much like ourselves.
The same wants, needs, desires, I guess, and probably a little bit of a harder life and a shorter, but nonetheless, they probably enjoy the same delicacies and infelicities that we enjoy ourselves. Well, Gurmila Margaret, that was very good. I enjoyed that.
I enjoyed that immensely. Yeah.
Okay.
It was great.
Slán an ish.
Slán gach duine.